hold on, wait a minute. You all have autism? I think the internet has developed this incredibly strange relationship with autism. Every single personality trait has somehow been swallowed by the diagnosis of autism.
Do you know that autistic people shrug their shoulders differently? Let me show you. Sometimes when an autistic person is confused, they will shrug their shoulders like this.
If you don't like certain foods, that's autism. You really love dinosaurs? I like the Pachycephalosaurus myself, or Pachycephalosaur. That's your favorite? Guess what, buddy? That's autism. Oh, you could like trains. You really like trains. Well, I got some really good news for you. Thomas the Tank Engine? Guess what, buddy? That's autism. You replay the same song 20 times? Oh my god, I can't believe I have to say this. I'm sorry to let you know, or happy, depending on who you are. Maybe you're on TikTok and this is the greatest news on earth, and I'm actually a medical professional telling you this right now. Guess what, buddy? Autism. Wait a second, hold on. You don't understand sarcasm sometimes? Oh my god. Brother, I gotta tell you this right now. That's exactly what you think it is. That's autism. You organize your desk a particular way. As a matter of fact, you were socially awkward when you were 13. Oh my god. That's autism. Oh, here goes my favorite. You have one extremely specific hobby that you can talk about for 6 hours. Congratulations! Apparently, TikTok has diagnosed you with autism because you have autism. I need people to understand something very specifically. Having a trait associated with autistic people does not automatically make somebody autistic. The CDC literally points out that people without autism can have some characteristics associated with ASD. You know what ASD is? That's the autism spectrum disorder. Bada bing, bada boom. Here goes some fun neurological words for you. I'm gonna help you out here. Autism involves a broader developmental pattern involving social communications, interaction alongside restricted or repeated or repetitive behaviors or interests. It isn't diagnosed from one cute personality quirk somebody recognized in a 30-second video. My biggest issue with the entire thing is that it gives people permission just to be wildly stupid. Well, I hyperfixate, so I'm autistic. I don't like eye contact, so maybe I'm autistic. I interrupted you for 45 minutes, but that's my autism. Hold on, maybe you're autistic. Maybe you aren't. Maybe that behavior is related to autism. Maybe it isn't. The label doesn't magically make every behavior healthy anyway. An explanation can help you understand yourself, right? It doesn't become a life-calling coupon that says nobody is ever allowed to tell you that something you did hurt them. I desperately want us to bring nuance back into this conversation because we have somehow discovered nuance, and then we beat nuance to death with a folding chair. That's what we've done. I don't know how we've done it. It's beautiful. And the funniest part is that it started from the word. You know what word it was? Not the internet company. The word spectrum was supposed to help us understand nuance. Spectrum is a wonderful concept. We use spectrums because human beings and complicated ideas don't always fit inside two little neat boxes. Not everything's a Venn diagram, you know? Political beliefs can exist across different dimensions. Sexuality can involve different patterns of attractions. Personality traits can vary. Human abilities vary. People are complicated little creatures running around with all these contradictory thoughts and strange preferences. So spectrum language can help describe variation without pretending everything has one exact presentation to be the thing that it is. But then someone online somewhere in the deep ethos of the internet, somewhere back in the day, maybe it was on 4chan, maybe it was on Reddit, I'm not quite sure, they had said something so dastardly, so evil. They had said autism is a spectrum, right? And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing because it is. Autism is a spectrum. But then it mutated into, therefore, everybody is somewhere on the autism spectrum. No, that is not what the term means medically. Autism is called a spectrum because autistic people can vary tremendously in their traits, their strengths, their challenges, and support needs. The spectrum describes variations within autism. A lot of people think it means that not having autism is one end of the spectrum of autism. That's not what that means. Saying everybody is on the autism spectrum because human behavior varies is like drawing a map of Michigan, right? Drawing a map of Michigan, that's where I live, and deciding Florida must be somewhere on here because both places are in America. That's what you've done. That doesn't make any sense. You just expanded the map until it no longer means anything. You just made it mean nothing. And I understand exactly why this language is so attractive. Saying everybody is a little autistic sounds inclusive. You know, sounds warm. You love this inclusive language. Makes you feel great, doesn't it? It must sound like you're destroying the wall between autistic people and non-autistic people, and you are making that beautiful because autism has been picked on for a long time. If everybody has autism, you haven't necessarily destigmatized autism. You have accidentally erased what the diagnosis is describing. Are you aware you're doing that, right? I think we should talk about something that's gonna make you offended. We gotta talk about something that's gonna make you offended. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the word. You know the word. I'm not gonna get my video demonetized because I'm not gonna say the word. I understand why society reached for that solution of making everything destigmatized and saying everybody has autism, because autism has the worst PR in history. A lot of cruelty, a lot of ignorance, a lot of weird stereotypes. I mean, look at the entirety of Forrest Gump. There was a movie called Radio that had horrible depictions of autism in totality. People heard autism and then they said, "Oh my goodness, this kid has Down syndrome." They imagine somebody incapable of speaking. They confuse autism with intellectual disability or entirely different conditions. They use disgusting schoolyard insults. They mock special education. They made jokes about the short bus. People who communicated differently were treated like they were stupid, just dumb. They called them slow. You're slow. Oh my God. People who needed substantial support were treated like burdens, just burdens to be upon this earth. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, I can't deal with them. Oh my, it's horrible. This is my little brother Atticus. Atticus has autism, right? He is a high needs autistic child. My mother cried for 7 weeks straight when she discovered that Atticus had autism. This was important, very important. She left for a week to go do something, some task, and said, "Could you watch Atticus? And if you could, I know it's impossible, please teach him how to speak." I said, "Sure, yeah, 100%, I'll do my best." She said, "I give you $50 if you do." I said, $50? So I taught my little brother Atticus to say his first word, which was potato. First word I ever taught Atticus was potato. First word ever. Now, it took me about a day or two. My mom came back post haste, actually, because she actually had to end her vacation early. But taught my little brother the word potato. She had a renewed sense of hope. You just got to put in a little bit of extra effort, because people need people that care about them around them in order for them to show their true fruits of what they could possibly become. That's just life. That's how life works. There are autistic people who can speak, work, date, create art, make jokes, navigate social situations, and then they were told they couldn't possibly do those very same things because, well, you don't have autism. You don't match the cartoon stereotype I have in my head. Very fun little aside here for a moment. Tell you something really cool. A while back, I went on a date with a non-verbal girl, and she couldn't say a lot of words. She had a caretaker. She couldn't speak, but she could text. She was really good at texting, and we would text all the time. Now, I went on a date with this woman. I was about 23 at the time, and she was 25, and we just went on a fun little date. Had really fun making really obscure, stupid, childish, middle school level humor jokes. It was very fun. People made fun of me for going on a date with this woman because she was, you know, the R word. It's what people kept telling me. "Oh, that girl is a little bit mentally," and then they say the R slur. She's a very lovely woman, and she had expressed to me how nobody had wanted to sleep with her, and she really was, you know, really wanting to be in the bedroom with somebody. This is gonna sound really cool. Did you know people with autism actually do want to have, you know, coitus? They want to be in the bedroom doing the fun stuff. Feels strange to say it out loud, doesn't it? That humans want to have love and connections and intimacy. Isn't that weird? They want that. They actually do crave that. But they're mentally a toddler. No, they're not mentally a toddler. Autism looks different in everybody. I imagine that people wanted to say, "Wait, autism could look like this too." Good. You know, that needed to happen. People needed to learn that autistic people can have wildly different interpretations. But then we did the internet thing where instead of moving from ignorance towards nuance, we grabbed nuance by the ankles and launched it directly towards the ceiling and broke its skull across the pavement. Autism can look many different ways. Slowly became this thing that meant almost anything you do might mean you're autistic. Did you know that? Almost anything you do is autistic. Two wildly different ideas, by the way. Wildly different. Loving trains intensely can be part of an autistic person's pattern of focused interest, right? Loving trains can also mean you really like trains sometimes, right? You understand that? Sometimes Thomas the Tank Engine simply has that grip on you, you know? It's just got that grip, that deep, disgusting, powerful, nasty, squelching, just screeching grip on you. You are allowed to have interest and not be autistic. You're allowed to be awkward and not be autistic. You're allowed to hate fluorescent lights All right, you understand that? You know you can eat the same breakfast every single morning. Human personality is not just the DSM, right? It's just not just the entirety of the DSM. That's not what it is. It's well, when autism entered the DSM is what I meant to say. It feels reduction. It just feels very strange. Okay, let's talk about the specific word of. People have always been obsessed with things. Have you met a sports fan ever? My brother in Christ. There are grown men, adults who can tell you the starting lineup of the 1997 Detroit Pistons, every trade their team has had in 15 years, the exact second a referee ruined their childhood, and what color shoes somebody is wearing during Game 6. Nobody looks at them and immediately opens an autism assessment. No one does that. They just say a person obsessed with it. There are people who know everything about airplanes. There are women who can tell you every detail of a celebrity's relationship history. There are children who know 800 dinosaurs. There are old men who will explain every component inside a 1968 Camaro. Every single piece of it. They're not autistic. Well, you see, we just didn't have the words to describe it. Intense interests exist throughout humanity. Autism can absolutely involve highly focused interests, routines, and repetitive patterns. But diagnosis looks at a constellation of characteristics and developmental history rather than taking one interesting behavior and declaring the entire mystery has been solved. That's just not how it works. Once every single recognizable human behavior becomes diagnostic content, people start reverse engineering themselves from a list, right? Well, I do number 3, number 7, and number 9. Therefore, autism maybe that could absolutely be worth exploring. There are adults who spend decades undiagnosed. I grasp that, that's understandable, especially people who didn't resemble the old stereotypes. But exploring a possibility and declaring a medical condition and conclusion are wildly different steps. I do not want to discourage curiosity about yourself. That's very healthy. Reading is healthy. Talking to autistic people can be helpful. Taking a screening questionnaire can give you something worth discussing. A TikTok carousel called 17 Signs You're Secretly Autistic, which I've seen 5 times, cannot examine your childhood development, rule out overlapping explanations, or perform a clinical assessment. Are you aware it can't do that? Are you aware it can't do that? I don't want to turn this into everyone must get professionally diagnosed tomorrow or shut up about autism, because that's not what I'm saying. I just want that's stupid too. That's dumb. Autism assessments can be difficult to access. Obviously, they can be expensive. Waiting lists can be awful. Adults may have trouble finding clinics who actually experimented with adult autism. Some people worry about stigma and what having a documented disability means for the rest of their lives. Not many people know that. They don't understand what that actually means. Autism organizations themselves acknowledge that there are real barriers to assessment and that people can have different reasons for seeking or avoiding formal diagnosis. At the same time, in the same vein, assessment can give people clarity and access to the sport. It's a very important distinction to have with it. I wondered whether I had OCD, ADHD, ADD, whatever. That's what I wondered for a long time. Then I learned that I'm schizoaffective. That knowledge was useful to me. It gave me a framework for understanding and what was actually happening instead of continually shopping around for all the explanations that based on whatever symptom sounded similar to me this week. Someone else's experience may be completely different, but this is exactly why I'm uncomfortable with turning diagnosis into these internet aesthetics. It doesn't work that way. Different conditions can share outward looking traits. Being distracted by does not automatically mean that you have ADHD. It doesn't mean that. I think the blue M&M is so hot. I just think he's really attractive. Because I went on a side tangent, people say I have those same ADHD thoughts. That's just ADHD. You actually do have ADHD or ADD, because I have that same thing. I go on side tangent as well. This is a video. I had to find that picture of the blue M&M. It's not like an ADHD. That's me actively constructing something with my thoughts. Chigo is so attractive. Again, me not getting distracted. That's me adding something into the video. That's not ADHD. Stop commenting that, by the way. You can recognize yourself within a description without immediately possessing the entire condition. Happens a lot when people say, well, I struggled just like black people, so that means I'm black. You see what I mean? I'm black. I ate watermelon. Does that mean I'm black? Huh? Does that mean I'm a black person too? No. Now I want to be crystal, chaos, emerald. I don't want somebody clipping this and saying I said that, oh, autism is actually a mental illness. No, I didn't say that. Autism is a neurological and developmental condition, disability. It's not simply a mental illness. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the NIMH describes autism spectrum disorder as a neurological and developmental disorder affecting how people interact, communicate, learn, and behave. I think the National Autistic Society describes autism as a lifelong neurodivergence and disability affecting how people experience and interact with the world. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, because I just got done reading these things, and I really should start scripting my videos one of these days. If I got something wrong, you're more than welcome to comment that I got it wrong. Go crazy. Autistic people can also have mental health conditions. You know, that's obviously a thing. Autism being developmental is important here because we're talking about a broader pattern of how somebody develops and experiences the world. We're talking about, I bought a noise-canceling headphones last Tuesday, and I think I prefer silence. I think that makes a lot more sense for me. I think I'm autistic. That might be one little clue inside of a much larger picture, or it might mean the Cheesecake Factory sounds really loud. You ever consider the Cheesecake Factory is just loud? Because the Cheesecake Factory is really loud? Cheesecake Factory is loud, by the way. I hate the Cheesecake Factory. This obsession with attaching diagnostic labels to every human preference can actually flatten autistic people again. We escape one stereotype. Autistic people all look and behave directly like this, you know, and then we have another stereotype with the same exact kind of thing. You know, I'm quirky, I'm introverted, I'm socially awkward, I'm obsessed with something, I like routines, I own large headphones. You know, there are autistic people with substantial support needs. There are autistic people who require help with daily living. There are autistic people who communicate non-speakingly. There are autistic people living independently. There are autistic people whose characteristics are barely noticeable to strangers. That's what Spectrum is helping us understand. Autistic people are incredibly different from one another. I think that my biggest fear is that people are going to turn autism into this identity trend. It's stupid. Where the label itself becomes culturally desirable, where the actual reality of autistic people gets shoved into the closet. We have done this with so many psychological and medical words. I'm so OCD because, you know, you organize your pencils. I'm dissociating because you got bored during a meeting. That's not dissociating, right? That's not the entirety of it. That traumatized me because, I don't know, Taco Bell forgot your cinnamon twist, maybe. I don't know. I'm manic because you stay awake cleaning your apartment. That doesn't mean anything, right? That doesn't mean what you think it does. That doesn't mean what it is. Language gets pulled out of the clinical context, squeezed into all these memes, and then circulated 5 million times, and eventually becomes so broad that nobody remembers what it originally described. I feel the same way about the specific word POV, because whenever I see a POV video, it's not actually from a point of view. It's from a fly on the wall perspective. It pisses me off so much. It's so stupid. Autism deserves better than that in totality. Autistic people deserve better than that. And what people who suspect they're autistic deserve better than a culture, right, that gives them two ridiculous options. Either you're faking it for attention, or yes, every trait means you're definitely autistic. We can't just do two things. That's stupid. That's dumb. There's such an enormous amount of room between those two positions, and it's so odd in a world where we've loved Spectrum so much, we care and champion Spectrum so much, we still think there's only A and B instead of the rest of the entire alphabet. Use the rest of the alphabet. Listen, if somebody says, I think I might be autistic, great, explore that. Read reputable information, look at your broader history, talk to a qualified professional if assessment is accessible and useful to you. Listen to autistic adults. Think about what support would actually improve your life. And while you're figuring it out, just figure that out. You don't need some stranger online screaming, faker! You're a faker! 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 That was gaming legend Faker. Just wanted to point that out. That's the image that was on screen that I was continually saying Faker. I just wanted to point that out because not everybody knows who Faker is. I don't know. I'm really online. Undiagnosed autistic people are obviously real. Adults missed in childhood are real. That's often real. People who mask exist. People without money for an assessment exist. We can acknowledge every single one of these multitude of realities in this multiverse of madness. Shout out to Doctor Strange. without declaring that the human experience itself is autism. It's kind of where I want this conversation to end, if I could be so bold to say. I want us to calm down about labels and become more curious about people. I want autism to be understood so well that nobody is ashamed of being autistic. While the word still means something, I want a kid with substantial support. He needs that. I want him to need that, be treated with dignity. I want him to have these needs be treated with dignity, you know? I want an autistic adult who spent 30 years wondering why the world seems built around somebody else's instruction manual to finally understand themselves. I want somebody who thinks they might be autistic to have affordable access to competent assessment if they want it. I want somebody who gets assessed and learns they aren't autistic to be able to say, okay, cool. Then what actually explains is going on? What am I experiencing? Without believing they just got kicked out of the club of autism. Because a lot of people really want to be part of a club. They crave that community, so they feel like they have to be the thing that the community is. It's very sad. So it's the same exact, I brought this up earlier, same exact logic of saying, well, I like black people, but I want to be black. I wish I was black. And you don't have to do that. I want people to stop collecting diagnoses like they're, I don't know, Pokemon badges or achievements in Xbox. You don't have to do that. Start collecting tools that make your lives better. If headphones help you with sensory overload, wear them. If routines help you function, build those routines. If writing down social expectations helps you, do it. You don't need to turn every coping mechanism into a personality trait or a personality test. You don't have to do that. And if you are autistic, your diagnosis doesn't reduce you into a list of quirky traits either. You're still an entire, beautiful, amazing person. That's what I think we lost somewhere in this giant, stupid internet argument. The original point of better autism awareness was supposed to be expanding our compassion, destroying stereotypes, and recognizing people who had been ignored. Keep that. Protect that. Make diagnosis easier to access, make schools kinder, make workplaces more accommodating. Let autistic people exist without constantly performing autism correctly for everybody else around them. All these people, please stop stretching the word until it covers every person who ever hated a loud noise, missed a social cue in public. Oh, you missed it, you're autistic. You ate chicken nuggets for 4 days, or maybe you really like dinosaurs. We don't defeat stigma by pretending everybody has the same condition. We defeat stigma when someone can be different from us, genuinely different from us, and we decide their humanity never depended on becoming more like us in the first place. That is when we truly will accept autism in totality. Well, that's the end of my video. Got a few announcements, pretty cool. I got a whiteboard over there, don't know what I'm going to use it for. Just wanted to point that out, by the way. I also have a Patreon, which is $1 a month. Now, YouTube doesn't like to pay me for a lot of this stuff. I like to make these videos. It's very fun. I make one of these a day. Hopefully you subscribe and enjoy that content. But if you really like me, you gotta subscribe to the Patreon. It starts at $1, then it goes up by $1 in tiers. Would appreciate that. Lowest tier is $1. If you got $1 to spare, appreciate that. If I can get if I can get 1/10 of my audience to go over there, that'd be great. Might make a whole video about it. I just need 10% or something of that variety. That'd be cool. Anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out my video. I have a side channel where I just sit down and talk and don't do all these edits. If you just like the sultry sound of my voice and don't want to pay attention to the screen, there's a side channel for specifically that. I made the side channel because someone literally requested it. Like, one person actively requested I make the side channel where I don't do all these edits and stuff, by the way. I will also be at YomaCon at the end of October. It's gonna be super fun. I'm very excited about it. I have 10 panels. Very excited to see you there. Hopefully you guys can join me along on my journey for going to YomaCon. It's going to be super cool. It's a big anime convention. It's in Detroit. Hopefully you join me there. With that being said, have a lovely day or night wherever you're at. I've been me. Usually I'm me. And I'm out. Peace. Bye.
I'm your Nick and Night, be my loyalties low. Ooh, happy to try what you need. Your world, I love to live in it. Ooh, I love the ride.